believe they're coming up shortly. So we're going to have David Packham. He is based in London or thereabouts. And here he comes. That's the man himself, David Packham. There he is. And we also have David Kalin coming in from New York as well. Need to get some confirmation as to his. Hey, David.
Hi, how are you?
Doing very well. It's good to finally meet you.
Yeah, I'm equally intrigued as to whether it's Kalin or Kalin as well, so we'll soon find out.
Perfect. Well, we're about to learn a whole bunch of new things around here.
Hi, David.
Hi, how are you, Bluejays?
Doing well today.
How does the sound come across? Is it okay? I just got a new mic to try and not sound so tin can. So.
You sound great.
You sound good. You're a little quiet. Maybe that's just you.
Could be me. Let's try this. Is that better?
A little better. Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Just go ahead and shout. I mean, you love Chintai, so you might as well just...
Chintai. Well, maybe he is having a few difficulties. I mean, we can kick off. I know you guys have got a schedule you're keeping to, so by all means.
Sure, yeah. So, yeah, we always do the who, what, where, why, when from everybody. And so basically, we'd like to know more about you first, your background, and then how you got involved in EOS, and then Chintai, of course.
Yeah, so my background, I mean, I'm getting old now, so I've just hit 40 actually, and I have about a 20-year career in asset management and a variety of related IT development systems backgrounds. So I came from an IT background, moved into more of asset management, and then watched the whole financial system collapse, and that kind of changed my view on what I wanted to get out of doing with my life. So that's how I first got into the whole blockchain space. I was looking into different technologies that could actually decentralize, and I could see that centralization for me was a bit of a problem. And that's then what led down, as we all know, the EOS rabbit hole, right? Which is once you go down it, you rarely come back.
Yeah, that's about sums it up there. I know. There's Mr. Kalin or Kalin?
Kalin, can you guys hear me all right?
Kalin, yeah, you sound great.
Great.
Awesome. Sorry, I was trying to get the Zoom up and running.
Yeah, and clearly, Mr. Kalin, you must be from, what, Greenland? I can't tell from the flag in the back.
Yeah, Greenland. That's the flag right there, so we're all good.
Oh, beautiful. Wow. Yeah, so we just heard from Mr. Packham about his background and how he got involved in EOS and Chintai. And how about you?
So I got an academic background in economics and then professionally in cybersecurity. Chintai, so actually started out, I think I reached out to Kevin at EOS New York because I had been part of the meetups trying to see if he had any ideas on how to kind of get a team going around this. Just suggested Telegram, which I think probably everyone who's watching this is pretty familiar with at this point. But just threw out the idea in one of the dev chats and connected with David. I think Nathan actually was the one who connected me with David, Nathan James. And then we just went offline, kind of started discussing. We had pretty much the same idea. I think we both weren't sure. I mean, at least I wasn't at first, whether block.one would be kind of doing this on their own or where anyone else might have been. But it seemed like the perfect timing for us to kind of get in touch and start moving on it. So we got together, him and Charles and I, and started moving from there. And obviously here we are now. So things are going well so far.
I actually got the authoritative answer from block.one, which is I asked Sandwich. Sandwich told me, and it must be true, right? So.
Yeah.
But that is essentially right. I mean, I'll give you our perspective because obviously Charles and I, we're part of EOS 42, and so being a block producer candidate, we all have different perspectives, and I think we're seeing that, and actually a lot of open discussion about what the role of a block producer is. And for us, we really wanted to start trying to create and support apps for the community. And the obvious one that was out there for me with my background was leasing, because I understand all orders and how they're actually managed. So for me, the idea of doing that and actually making it feeless was the big driver behind Chintai, because I could see a way that we could instantly, with other community-focused BPs, actually fund this whole platform and keep it completely free for everybody. And understanding the economics of EOS, you pretty quickly realize that leasing is going to be a big part in the future, not so much maybe on launch itself, of how all the economics is going to work.
So if you're keeping it feeless, then that means that the maintenance costs will go back to EOS 42?
Yeah, well, it's not just that. I mean, if anybody cares to take a look at the our website that has gone live. I mean, we've already got backing from EOS New York, EOS Detroit, EOS Sphere, EOS SoCal, EOS Tribe, and EOS DAC. So it's by no means just one BP. This is a project far bigger. And if you take a look at the core dev team, I mean, it's made up of just individuals from across the community, which is what I find so inspiring about it. Actually, we got out there with the white paper, and people have come together from across a huge, diverse range of backgrounds, people, and they're giving up their free time as we start to go from initial designs right through into the coding stage, which we kicked off. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, so as I mentioned before, Telegram, I just think it's like such a powerful tool now, the things we can kind of do. Obviously, I don't have a part with EOS 42, but big part of the Chintai team, and we've kind of put the team together primarily through the use of Telegram and others. So it's been huge for us to kind of get this going, getting the wide community involved with this, and that's been the whole goal from the very beginning of this thing.
It's been fairly impressive the way you guys have rallied the community behind this project. And can you talk more about what Chintai is looking like, how the project works, and also what's being worked on right now?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll take the initial question, David, and then you can jump in whenever you want.
Sure.
In terms of its early structure, the plan is always that this gets fully handed over to be community-owned and maintained going forward. So we're already looking at, for example, when this is handed over post-launch, there'll be some sort of governance process whereby worker proposals end up being the driver for future functionality. But right now, it's a very kind of traditional project team. It's a group of individuals that have come together. It has its advantages in that although it's not as decentralized as maybe the way that we sometimes would look at some of these teams could work, it's very dynamic. We are fast working. We're able to fast interact with each other and make decisions and action off them. So we've got to a point where a technical design doc's being put together. Some of the initial coding is already started. Steve from EOS Dallas has just been doing a phenomenal job with the user interface side as well for us. So it's been really quite great just for us to see the different aspects of the design already taking place and starting to actually fill out here. But really, we are quite focused on the fact that our intention is to try and get a launch version as ready as soon as possible for the blockchain launch itself. So it'll have cut down functionality initially, and then we can start to expand out some of the more advanced leasing functionality that's outlined in the white paper later.
So, David's, what as a token holder? As a token holder, what am I looking for in a leasing platform? And you obviously, David P, you know it a lot better with your background. So, I mean, can you explain to me, for somebody who's not really that advanced in terms of all the leasing options out there, but what would I need, a regular person, to be able to do what I want?
So, I mean, apart from obviously holding EOS tokens yourself in a wallet, at that point, it's just going to be a case of registering with Chintai itself. And in theory, from that point onwards, you can make your tokens available for leasing. And it will be then for the DApp producers on the other side to actually look at that and say, yes, we want to start picking up tokens rather than acquiring more and more of our own. And what's going to happen is as the token price increases, that opportunity cost for them of holding these tokens goes up and up and up. And the business models for a lot of these guys is going to be to do a variety of different things, but it's not going to be sit there holding, in theory, further down the line. If the token price rises to a sort of level, it could be millions of dollars of tokens they'd have to hold just to run their app, or they can lease them vastly more cheaply. And so the way it's really going to look for the average user is that they're going to be able to fairly flexibly pick the leasing term, so how long they actually want to lease out for. There will be a market rate that's continually being decided by supply and demand dynamics within the application itself. I won't go into the kind of specifics of how the more sophisticated pricing could work, but in effect, what you're going to see, therefore, at the end of each cycle is that you're going to be getting hard-earned EOS tokens in a form of payment back for your leasing them out. And okay, all you end up having to do is, in effect, leave them staked and locked for the period you agree. So it's going to be a win for everybody because it gives it gives DApp producers the ability to actually run their applications more cheaply. And it gives you, the token holder, the ability to actually realize some form of income from just holding. So it's pretty cool.
It sounds really cool. When would a DApp owner require a temporary need of tokens?
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example, actually. I mean, say you guys went fully decentralized as a platform further down the line with EOS Radio, and it was a decentralized app on EOS. You might decide to yourselves, right, we want to buy, we're going to have a huge marketing campaign for something big, and we want to buy a load of CPU or bandwidth, and we need to guarantee we can lease out X amount, say over a 1 week window. You could just go into Chintai, book that space out, lease the tokens in advance. Further down the line, this is what would be possible, and it would be able to buy you that bandwidth, so you had no worries about the fact that we don't have enough. So those are the sorts of examples, but I mean, it could be any kind of business. Anything doing a marketing campaign would require that kind of thing. Anything that might require more intensive use. I mean, let's give you an example too. Another would be, say you launch a game on EOS and it suddenly goes absolutely viral. You could look ahead and go, this has gone crazy. Why don't we just sneak into the market now, book out and lease a load of forward bandwidth capacity here, so we're locked in and guaranteed, and we don't have an impact on that.
Or some tax preparation software or something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's another good one,
Yeah, just to echo David on that, there's going to be dApps of all different sizes, obviously. So right away, you may not have the capital or want to go out and buy everything, like he said. You may suddenly come up with something, the price is too high, you're just starting an idea, boom, you have the ability to go out and you have access to that liquid pool. I think that's what we've been thinking about from the beginning, or at least personally I have, where they're going to be all different teams kind of coming together here, and they're all going to want access to the same type of things. Not to mention, though, even if you have a huge DApp team, a lot of liquid capital, as David mentioned, the opportunity cost is going to be much better for you to be able to lease them than to have to go out and buy a ton of tokens anyway. So it's going to be useful for every single team out there, anyone who's looking to get into it. We're going to have flexible lease options for whatever the case may be. So, I mean, I'm excited to see how this is all going to come together. I think we all are when we launch this thing in June.
And we should get into the community project aspect of this. I mean, this is probably the first community project, I believe, of any on EOS, where literally you guys have sort of wrangled a group of people together just who would like to have a token rental DApp, and you guys have led the charge, and now it's in full process here. So can you tell us more about how that's worked out, how you guys got the community involved, and what the next steps are?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite inspiring, the fact that you can pull together people and form a team out of almost nothing, right? Which is certainly, and I think, this is by far just an indication of things to come. There are lots of other groups that are starting to form projects and pull them out, but this is certainly was unusual in the sense that it was trying to get people to give up their time for absolutely no financial compensation whatsoever, right? Which is always a tough one. Hey, why don't you give us all your expertise and time for no benefit in terms of financial? And that shows, though, that anything is possible with a community like this. But yeah, it was an interesting one, right? The white paper was really well received, and I thought to myself, oh man, I'm going to be having to just fight off the applicants to come and get involved in this cool project. And actually, it was a kind of case of maybe not. A lot of people are really keen to join the channel and talk about this stuff, but there aren't so many who are actually, really keen to just get involved and join the team. So it took about 3 or 4 weeks before we got to the point of what I would say we had a core team. And that was probably as well because it took a while for the wider community to become fully aware of what this thing was. A lot of people had heard of Chintai. They had no real idea necessarily of what it was. And even if they did, their first reaction is, it's some sort of BP project that's going to be, there to make them money. So when people found out, no, actually, this is going to be a feeless, community-owned project, and it's for everyone, that's when the attitude changed, and everybody was suddenly keen to go, actually, I'm going to give up my time. You know, Steve was a great example, and suddenly we've got all that benefit from him on the design and UX side as well. So that's yeah, it's certainly for me been quite inspiring. I come from quite centralized companies where I've watched quite inefficient development, and it's always been focused around having to follow due processes all the way. So now seeing something here where it's just really just, you know, pow, 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 we're going to get things done and we're going to get this done. And then later on, we can always redo things. It's really cool. It's very entrepreneurial inside the team, which I love to see.
That's amazing. And actually, speaking of community engagement, we have Don Soul One here in the chat just said there's a small typo on the web page. It says developers instead of developers. There you go, community benefit right there. So,
right there. This is where I'm going to slap Charles. Excellent. Okay, thank you.
And David K. So let's talk about the economics a little bit. I mean, I know you have an economics background. Can you dive in a little bit to how the token will work, the crypto economics behind the liquidity, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I don't know how deep we want to get into the actual token mechanisms right now. I think we're kind of going through exactly how we want to work that out and deliver it. I mean, if you look in the white paper, the initial idea was that we have these cycles, which again, we're still deciding on, I think, the length of the cycles that will make this kind of the most viable option. That will, for every token or for every EOS token that you lease out, then a Chintai token is then given per whatever cycle, if it's a week, a day, again, not 100% worked out yet, given to the DApp team, the user. So again, we get kind of confused here with lessor and lessee, confusing terms, which we had used in the white paper, I think. So we've been going back to like the DApp team and then a staker, but won't get into all that. Anyway, the Chintai token is created for the user, and then the DApp team then buys that back at the end of the cycle after the agreed upon pricing mechanism occurs. But again, there's a lot of things still to be worked on with the leasing engine. I think for our initial launch, we'll have some more default options, and it will be manually done, and we'll kind of get in further to those advanced leasing options later. We don't want to promise anything here, as there's obviously some time and subject to change.
I think that's right. You know, it's going to be more, if anybody is familiar with Steam, it's going to be, in terms of its early interface, more akin to something like Minnow Booster. So it will be a self-matching service whereby you say, yep, there's someone offering their tokens at that rate. Click, yeah, I'm going to fill that order and I'm going to lease them at that rate. It gets more sophisticated when you add the token in, but it's an internal token. Nobody get excited. We're not airdropping on anyone. I'm really sorry. You know, although we'd get more followers if we did that, right?
All you need to do is say airdrop, yeah.
Exactly. We are airdropping Chintai tokens, and you can't sell them anywhere. So, because what actually happens? I mean, this was Mr. James's big insight into this, was making it a pure utility token for pricing, and they get burned at the end of every cycle. The Chintai tokens on the buyback side. So it's a fascinating utilization of tokens in a way that they're meant to be being utilized rather than just as currency, right? And so we certainly want to explore this further, because it is actually an incredibly clever way of finding a price determination point, which doesn't require any kind of tie back to fiat in any way. So yeah, exactly as David said, we're working through the logistics of that, but mindful of the fact that that's not going to be available on launch. You know, with Dawn 3 only just now coming out, that's the sort of functionality that we're only just going to be able to even start contemplating. So it's to follow, and it was always on the roadmap to follow later on. So.
I'm almost envisioning this. Your DApp gets launched, Chintai gets launched, and everyone puts their tokens there. And all of a sudden, you have like 1 cent to basically your opportunity cost to rent is going to be so much cheaper, and therefore a whole bunch of dApps are going to come on.
Well, they might do, or they might not. You see, it depends, doesn't it? Because the way they're going to look at it, any dApp that was halfway savvy will probably go, "Wow, these tokens are so cheap right now. Do I think they're going to go up?" Yeah, if I was a DApp owner right now, I would go, well, you know what? Yeah, I can see us maybe selling these off later on, but you probably would be buying at these kind of prices. It's where they get to 20, 30, 40 each that you'd be looking and going, all right, we need how many? Wow, that's a lot of money to be suddenly
Are you talking
up.
about EOS or
yeah,
Chintai?
EOS.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying, right? It's early on. I think you're right, though. I mean, there's probably going to be a relatively high supply early on and a relatively low demand for leasing, and then that will gradually switch around, and that is going to obviously have a direct impact on the leasing price. But you know, it links into other things too, which is that it's partly a responsibility of the BPs themselves to actually increase and expand out the bandwidth capacity on the network too, to ensure that leasing never becomes too expensive either. So you know, and the token price too has a direct impact on affordability for people leasing. So you could put a DApp owner out of business in theory if there's a massive spike upwards in the EOS token price and they're leasing on current pricing. So they're probably going to want to lock in, you know, over say a 1 year period and give themselves that stability.
It's probably like the renting versus leasing your home concept, where if you're going to stay in one location for over 5 years, you might as well own it, right?
Yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, on the other hand, a lot of rich people, they like to take out loans against their house because it's a cheap way to do it. So there's lots of ways to look at these things. You're right.
Again, yeah, opportunity cost of the money. You don't have to pay it all up front. You can be doing something else with what you could have spent initially. So we'll see what happens, I guess, when those big apps come out and see what they decide to do.
Sure. Yeah, and we know by now that obviously as a DPoS chain, people are used to being paid through voting for block producers, but that will not be the case with EOS, obviously. So it looks like Chintai will be one of the few ways that we know of right now where people can make extra EOS from their EOS, correct? So this is certainly an exciting, no airdrop, but this is an exciting project nonetheless, because long-term the benefits will be huge. How can people look at getting involved in Chintai? What are the next steps for you guys?
Well, I think the big one of all will be join the Telegram channel, Chintai at Chintai EOS, because if you are interested in getting involved on a project management capacity analysis, particularly coders, or just to talk anybody who's got some thoughts on the long-term governance side of this as well. We're looking for people. So if they would, you know, like to get involved, stick your hand up, and we'd be delighted to talk to you guys.
Yep, contacts listed on the website too, which is all up and running now, so everyone can take a look over there. We got the white paper on there, as well as the teams, the sponsors, everything. So there's a few different resources out there to get in touch with us now.
Yeah, website looks great. We posted it earlier in the chat. So if you are in there, go ahead and scroll up a little bit. You'll see Chintai-EOS.com, I believe it is.
Yep.
And also
.io.
That giant spelling error you're talking about now, it's just upsetting.
.io. Everybody, you know, the cool websites are .io, as we all know by now.
Yeah, of course.
The question we love to ask everybody too, we make sure we ask you guys, where do you guys see EOS going, you know, long term, and what are your wildest dreams and visions for EOS, and why?
I'll tell you what, the thing that I don't fully yet understand, and I'm going to be perfectly honest about it, is exactly how all this future world of multiple chains interacting is fully going to... I don't understand how that's all going to work yet. So for me, I must admit, I can see the main chain in it, how it's going to evolve, but yet I don't fully understand how it's all going to interact. You know what I mean? And that's my big one. I'm watching with interest, but beyond the evolution of the main chain itself, it's hard to tell. But if you look at all of the rival Gen 3 blockchains, I mean, I just don't see any of them having a hope right now at keeping up with this. So it's going to be a really interesting 6 months, I think, when some of the big commercial projects launch. You know, I'm talking and giving some advice to a decentralized bank that's launching on EOS, right? So there's some exciting stuff out there, all under the surface right now that people don't know about. And it's big projects. And when that kicks in, I think it's going to be a really... We're going to see the community probably triple, quadruple in size probably in the first 6 months from where it is now. And it's going to be, yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, for me, it's all about the projects, I think. I think cryptocurrency and blockchain obviously has kind of become a little bit mainstream over the past year, mainly because of the ICOs and all the different cryptos, investors and speculation. But people have also been talking about, hey, look, here's what blockchain can possibly do, but there hasn't been a chain out there that you've been able to kind of release these apps on, and there hasn't been any proof of concept really out there for all these different ideas. And so hopefully Chintai can be part of this and enable those dApps to go out and get built, and EOS will be what I think we're all hoping it will be. So I'm, again, excited to see what will happen here. Yeah, and you guys are certainly setting the model for what a community project should look like. And of course, the dApp itself will be very useful in the long run as well.
So, David P., you mentioned the fact that you don't understand too much about multiple chains coming out, but Chintai looks like one of those projects that would possibly be able to fill a need on those multiple chains.
Oh yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, in theory, that's exactly what will happen. Is that side chains and other chains they'll be utilizing it as well for leasing. So I guess where I say I don't understand is I don't yet fully understand the complex interplay of dynamics and economics that's going to end up occurring.
I see what you mean under the covers. Yeah.
It's kind of going to be, it's hard, I think, for any of us to fully see it. It will be like probably, I guess, us sitting there in 1994 and be able to envisage how, you know, the big internet giants of the future would end up turning out. And it might well be a bit like that. We're sitting there with this big black space in front of us and not really sure yet how it's all going to play out.
We're looking at that @ symbol and we're just scratching our heads. We're like, what is this thing?
Got it. Yeah.
Well, cool. It's been, thank you guys for talking more about Chintai. You cleared up a lot. And of course, as you mentioned, go on the website. It looks phenomenal. I mean, everybody loves the website. So check out the team, read the white paper. It was illuminating for me as well. And I'm sure a lot of folks will find the same. Yeah, it's good to meet you guys. Of course, we'll see you around. You and I have talked about before, David P., about the good old days of Telegram. Someday we'll look back on these and we'll be like, oh, those small community still trying to build up, and these are the foundational days of the next web, as we believe. So
they are, because right now everybody, it pretty much is super positive. Anybody who comes from anywhere else in crypto right now, they talk about the EOS community and how positive it is and how willing people are to give time up and explain things. And long may that last, right? That we keep that culture, that people, as they come in, they pick that up too and realize that's how it's done amongst all of us, because it's going to be for our benefit if we can keep it that way. It's good.
Yeah. Well, here's to EOS, and thank you guys. We will be catching up with you eventually. And thank you, David K., as well. Had fun in Greenland there.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Cheers, guys. It was nice meeting you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bluejays. Thanks, Kev. Cheers. Bye.